Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Monday, July 18th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo, and on today's report, more details are emerging about the Uvalde mass shooting, the first report since the shooting took place. Meanwhile, Emmett Till's accuser is speaking out in the form of an unpublished memoir. We're going to have that story for you. Then, 3 black men who were only teens when they were convicted have been cleared in a 1995 killing.
Plus, Sesame Place characters are under fire for the way they treat black kids. And comedian Craig Robinson cancels a show after a shooting. We have all that and so much more. This is Our Voice and Our Truth. So, let's get it.
We're learning more about the mass shooting at a Texas elementary school. The first comprehensive report on the Uvalde school shooting is now out. The newly released report reveals nearly 400 law enforcement officers were on the scene, but didn't enter until almost 80 minutes later. They are, quote, egregiously poor decision making. That's what the report said. This is new body cam footage released with the report showing authorities inside the school. Now, that report from the Texas House of Representatives says the shooter wasn't stopped earlier because of systemic failures by law enforcement on the scene. 21 students and teachers were gunned down during the massacre. Surveillance video shows officers standing in a school hallway for over an hour as the killer shoots his victims. The decision to finally confront the man was made by a small group of officers. Every time we talk about Uvalde, it is such a hard and a heart-wrenching thing to do because we are, and just think about it for us, but think about it for the parents having to relive this over and over and over again. But I think what really got me was in this 77-page report, they found that law enforcement failed to go back to their active shooter training. But not only that, this is the big thing, is that they prioritize their safety over the children's safety. And don't get me wrong, you are allowed to be scared, but when you sign up for a job like this, that means that you have to prioritize anyone's safety over your own. And so the fact that they were worried about themselves, they were worried about their safety over children, that is outrageous. And then they found that the gunmen shot 142 rounds inside the building, and they are almost certain that 100 of those rounds came before any of the officers entered that building. So that means that they had a chance to stop 100 rounds of ammunition going in that classroom before they even stepped foot in there. And so when you just look at all of the findings, nearly 400 officers, it's like this was a colossal failure.
A colossal failure is really a great word to use, Mimi. When you think about that many police officers, honestly, who have different backgrounds, who all grew up different ways, and I'm sure intake their training a different way. So everyone can use the training that they learn in a different way. When you think about not one person was saying, hey, like, we need to do something else more. Why don't we do this? Or suggesting something else. And Mimi, I don't know, when you say scared, I don't imagine that they were scared. I really feel like they just really had no idea what to do because, again, it was a smaller town and they're not used to something of this magnitude happening. And I don't know if they were scared. I really just think they just had no idea what to do.
I don't know. I think out of nearly 400 officers, the training, the tactical training, maybe some of them had been in, Afghanistan. I have no idea, but I just feel like they just didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Out of 400 officers, you mean to tell me not one took the initiative to say, look, I know we're not communicating on the same level because there's different police officers, different forces for there. We understand that someone had to take the initiative. These officers, they have kids. You're hearing kids screaming. You're hearing gunshots. You're hearing this continuously, yet you're standing there doing nothing. This is the part that hurts the most. And like, again, when we show this over and over again, we think about the parents have to relive this and understand that some of those kids could have been saved.
You know, and you see in movies all the time, right, where you see like there's that one Lone Ranger who's willing to say, you know what, I'm going to stand up for what I believe in. And it's like, where are those people at? Because now it's like we see like the Denzel Washington's like, he'll go against the grain and say, you know what, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to to be the hero here. We don't have, not one person wanted to be the hero of the day, and it's really sad.
You know, and what that reminds me of too, Demi, is think about how bad they were acting outside. Bad, for lack of a better word, that's something my mother would say. But think about how bad they were acting. They were restraining parents. They were handcuffing parents. But then when you get inside with the gunman, where did all of that go?
And this is what you sign up for.
Right.
I mean, you sign up to say, you know, you may lose your life, but you're trying to save one else's life. It's part of the job. You understand that when you take it. And out of 400.
Yeah.
Out of 400
and I even think, Mimi, on our last point, I know we have to wrap up here, about the one mom that they were arresting. Like, you put your energy in arresting a mom and trying to remind her about all the other times that she was arrested in her life versus putting the energy in saving the little kids. Because it seems as if now it's being proven that they had the capacity to do that.
The mom had more hearts, actually, than some of those officers.
There we go.
All right.
The January 6th House Committee is issuing a subpoena to the Secret Service for text messages from the day of the insurrection that reportedly have been deleted. The subpoena comes after the Department of Homeland Security met with the panel and told lawmakers that many of the texts were erased. This even after the Inspector General requested them as part of the probe into the January 6th insurrection. Officials say they were deleted as part of a device replacement program. Lawmakers want to find out why they were initially deleted.
New York Attorney General Letitia James is moving scheduled depositions with former President Trump after the death of his former wife, Ivana. Ivana died from injuries related to her falling down the stairs in her New York City home. James is investigating the Trump Organization real estate company for potential illegal activities. Trump, his daughter, Ivanka, and son, Don Jr. have been trying to avoid the depositions for months. James says the probe has uncovered evidence the Trump Organization overstated the value of its hotels, golf courses, and other real estate to get favorable loans and tax breaks.
The NAACP is asking Attorney General Merrick Garland to open a federal civil rights investigation into the death of Jayland Walker. Now, Walker is the unarmed black man who was shot to death by Akron, Ohio police last month. In a letter to the Attorney General, the NAACP president, Derek Johnson, said the officers should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Meanwhile, the state coroner's office releasing the autopsy results in Walker's case.
Stands out to me, and I would like to think stands out to everybody, is that an unarmed black man was shot 46 times. Jayland Walker was shot and has 46 entrance wounds in his body and died of blood loss from those multiple gunshot wounds. I don't know how that wouldn't surprise anybody to actually hear that.
The autopsy also says there were no drugs or alcohol in Walker's system.
The woman who accused Emmett Till of whistling at her before he was lynched says she is also a victim and has paid dearly with her life for what happened to him. That's according to an unpublished memoir obtained by the Associated Press. The manuscript, called I Am More Than a Wolf Whistle, claims Carolyn Bryant Donham tried to help Till once he'd been located by her husband and brother-in-law. Donham says she tried to protect Till by telling her husband he is not the one. But she says that Till, who had been dragged from a family home in the middle of the night, spoke up and identified himself. The manuscript was given to AP by historian Timothy Tyson. Tyson says that he decided to make it public after recent news of an arrest warrant that was never served on Donham was discovered. We're also learning that in the case that the Mississippi Attorney General has no plans to prosecute Donham, saying there is no new evidence to open the case back up. So I follow someone on Twitter who said that they got a copy of the manuscript and called it a disgusting read. Is the word, a disgusting read. Honestly, it's the audacity of this woman to even say, because it really just makes you feel like, let well enough be just alone. Leave it alone, because Emmett Till is one of those murders that has gone down in history. We will talk about this for years to come, decades to come. In his story, again, we attributed him to compared it to Jayland Walker's story. And so for her to even be speaking out about this is disgusting and so insulting to the family and honestly millions of Americans that have read this story.
The fact that she said that she was a victim, she was not a victim. This lady is not a victim. That 14-year-old child, that baby, was a victim. She is still alive. She lived a full life. This young man never got to see his parents again. He went to Mississippi for a visit, never went back home. The fact that she, as a grown woman, would author such BS tells you why she needs to be arrested and be in jail right now. Honestly.
I agree. You think about these two grown men getting hold of this 14-year-old boy, putting hands on him, beating him, abusing him, the pain he had to go through. We can only imagine what that was. And then for his mom to have to bring him back and bury him and leave a casket open so the world can see what they did to her son. And she wants to sit down and say she's a victim too. That's disgusting. I mean, I can't even believe that something like this is in print, that it would come out.
I can.
This is disgusting.
I feel like people have the audacity, the privilege to say certain things like this. So I do believe that she feels like she in some way was the victim. She said her life has been altered ever since. She's apparently now somewhere in hiding. They can't find her. So bad, so sad. I mean, there is no statute of limitation on murder. And the fact that the prosecutor says that they don't want to arrest her for murder is a problem in itself. Because like I said, we can go back and find probable cause to arrest people for crimes that allegedly happened 40 years ago. We know that she had something to do with the murder of Emmett Till, and she is still alive, and we won't prosecute her. I don't understand why.
And the reason why, too, I'll never, honestly, forever forgive this woman is even in her statements and testimonies, she calls young boys the N-word as well. So it's like, you know what? You don't even understand. You're so misunderstanding of what's happening, and you don't understand what's going on right now. So I will never forgive her for what she did to him.
We still want justice. We definitely still want justice. All right, Texas school board member is admitting her colleagues pushed out a black school principal for being an activist in 2020 after he spoke out about the death of George Floyd. Dr. James Whitfield, who was Colleyville High School's first black principal, wrote a letter to the school community about his feelings after Floyd's death. That created an uproar among white families. Many accused him of advocating the teaching of critical race theory. In September of 2021, Whitfield agreed to resign. He is now on paid administrative leave until August of 2023. At that time, his resignation will take effect.
And a federal judge in Wisconsin is ruling in favor of a suburban school district after black parents filed civil rights violations against administrators. The judge in the case says the parents failed to prove the district's lack of action against the teachers had an impact on their child's education. Now, back in February of 2021, the teachers handed out an assignment to sixth graders during the first day of Black History Month. Now, that questionnaire asked students how they would punish a slave in ancient Mesopotamia. The question read, "A slave stands before you and disrespects you as a master. According to Mesopotamian times, how would you punish the slave?" An investigation showed the question was not part of the district's curriculum on the ancient civilization. It was a question devised by the instructors. Now, the teachers were placed on administrative leave and they ultimately resigned. Here we go. This is like the picking cotton. This is like all of that for me. You know, we wait to the first day of Black History, then we want to give them these assignments that we make up in our head about slavery. I just, what? But this is the thing that got me the most is that the judge ruled that the parents couldn't prove that there was racism involved or that it had any impact on their child's education. He said that a reasonable jury would find it offensive, they would find it insensitive, but it doesn't, quote, come to a hostile environment claim. So here's the thing. In 2022, sometimes it's hard to prove racism. But as Black people, we know when it happens. We can feel it. We know when someone's following us around a store. We know when we got passed over for a job or whatever it may be. So it's hard to sometimes prove racism. But at the end of the day, all of those things that he just said, offensive, insensitive, those are things in the same family as racism. So it's like to say that it wasn't is... I don't know. It's just, it's wrong.
You know, when we talk about these slavery assignments, for me, this is my own personal opinion, because we don't teach more about slavery in grammar school or elementary school and high school and college, I believe that there are some white Americans who go down a rabbit hole of Black culture and what happens to Black people in slavery. And so then in turn, teachers, they become obsessed with it. They become so obsessed that it comes out in the form of, like you said, an assignment that it's like, why would you even think that this was okay? But in their minds, I don't believe that they think that they're doing something wrong. I really feel like they're like, I'm obsessed with knowing about this, and I never learned about this, so I want to teach this and like do this cotton picking. And it's like, if we were to teach more about slavery in elementary school, in high school, in college, you would know that this is wrong in your adult life. To try to go as a teacher and teach some white and black kids about slavery in that way.
And a majority white district
Absolutely.
that this is, too.
Look, slavery existed. We all know that. And the reality of it is how our ancestors suffered. We understand that. And there's ways you can teach it and you can learn and show without going to a situation like that, without choosing this route. This is when it gets out of hand where it's like, really? You're really going to ask that, make that a question out of all of this? We don't want to, we have to relive it and think about it as it is. We don't want to have to make up and create a different answer for that. How do you think we should want to be treated?
But you should not be doing this to kids, to sixth graders. Like, I put my son in this situation and how outraged I would be if this were his own assignment and he's being asked to pretend that he's a slave and what his master would say. Like, this is out of line. Like, I would never want my child subjected to something like this.
It's a sick obsession, honestly.
Absolutely.
I really feel like when we talk about white Americans who become obsessed with this, who did not learn about it as a child, and then they just want to put it out in these sick, disgusting ways, and they need to be stopped. And I'm happy that we're talking about it here. A man who was wrongfully convicted of killing Malcolm X is filing a $40 million lawsuit against New York City. Muhammad Aziz, formerly known as Norman 3X Butler, spent 2 decades in prison for the 1965 murder until he was paroled in 1985. A Manhattan judge vacated his and his co-defendant Khalil Islam's conviction just last year. The lawsuit comes after a breakdown between New York's city comptroller and Mr. Aziz. Now, his attorney, they're worried a long, drawn-out legal battle might outlive Aziz, who is 83, who actually killed Malcolm X, has been a mystery for decades. Who killed Malcolm X? That has definitely been a mystery. A Netflix documentary, Who Killed Malcolm X, dealt with this issue.
A white Florida man that's angry with black landscapers who blocked his driveway is recorded threatening them with his AR-15 assault rifle.
I said I'll move. You think I'm playing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your daughter better take record of how stupid her father is.
Yeah, all right.
Keep recording.
All right.
If it goes
Cut that
online,
off.
your ass will be sued too.
Cut that, do you?
Earlier this month, Jeremy Lee and his daughter, Carrie Lee, say they were finishing a landscaping project in a Clearwater neighborhood when David Berry came out of his house yelling and screaming. Lee's daughter recorded the confrontation on her cell phone. Mr. Lee says he called police, but Berry was not arrested and faces no charges. Really? Again, out there making an honest living, doing their job, and they have to encounter something like this. If you live in certain neighborhoods where you have people doing yard work, this happens a lot. It's a simple, I'm sorry, I'll move the car, whatever. But for this could have ended so many different ways, and we understand that. And this man had no respect the way he was talking to the daughter, the way he was pointing his finger, just the words he was using, the anger. This man's having a bad day, and it could have cost someone's life.
I mean, he knew that he was saying something crazy because he's like, if it makes it online, it's going to be, a problem for you. So he already knew that we're not playing these days. But honestly, I'm just commending the family because I'm a scary cat, honestly. If he threatened me like that, I just don't know if I would have been, I probably wouldn't have posted it. I probably would just show my friends like, girl, let me tell you what happened. Because I would have been too afraid.
Would you have stopped recording if he said stop recording?
I would have recorded it, but me posting it online would have terrified what might have happened to me living in this area. So, and that's the problem. That's what they want to do is terrify people. And I'm the scary cat like that might be afraid to post this online, a fear out of retaliation.
So I think what happened in this case is the daughter sent it to a cousin and the cousin posted it on Twitter.
There we go.
So when the cousin posted it on Twitter, it just kind of took off. But this man has a long criminal history. And so let's talk about that. And the fact that he, I don't think was supposed to have a weapon in the first place. So he's been charged with at least 3 felonies, including battery and burglary. And so they were saying that the fact that this man has this short temper aligns with his criminal history and his past. And so why wasn't he arrested? What is going on?
Yeah, we've seen this before where someone terrorizes a neighborhood and nothing happens because the police are on it or for whatever reason, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
And we also know what an AR-15 can do to someone's life if someone pulls the trigger. We know the outcome.
Exactly.
It's not good.
Exactly. All right. Well, 3 black men who were convicted as teens in the horrific murder of a New York City subway clerk were cleared of the killing on Friday. Vincent Aribi, James Irons, and Thomas Malik were convicted in the 1995 death of Henry Kaufman, a token clerk. Now, Kaufman was set on fire after someone poured gasoline in the enclosed booth. The men were only teens when they were convicted of the second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Years later, it was determined that the trio confessions they were coerced by a disgraced New York City detective, Louis Scarella. This is the same former cop who has had dozens of cases reviewed and thrown out because of his illegal actions.